We are live according to my screen here. Hey, everybody, this is Rob and Jordan, and this is Archangel Inc. Live number 26. How are you, Jordan?
I'm doing great tonight, Rob. How are you doing?
I am doing well. I am doing well. So tonight's topic is going to be productivity tips when working from home. And the way I envisioned it, Jordan, was just some different things that have worked for me, and I'm going to invite you, of course, at any point to share your thoughts on working from home. I know a lot of people now, due to the health recommendations, are encouraged to work from home and kind of just stay inside, and rather than succumbing to the temptation to just binge watch your favorite movies and play video games and do things that maybe are not the best use of your time. We want to encourage people to continue to stay productive and maybe take this opportunity to engage in some of those creative projects that you've been putting on hold. Obviously, a lot of people watching us are people who are interested in writing and publishing and creating content. These tips may work for other creative endeavors too, but we'll kind of touch on productivity for the general worker, but then also some writer specific productivity tactics and strategies and all of that. And this is not going to be exhaustive or definitive. I certainly am not the final word on it. Whatever works for you. I'm very agnostic, just like we talked about a couple of sessions ago on preparing your taxes and doing your bookkeeping and all of that. Whatever strategy and tool set that works, please by all means utilize that and feel free to speak up. Anybody who's tuning in, who's listening and joining us on the live broadcast here, we're happy to hear your thoughts and comments and make it interactive as much as possible. Whatever works for you, it may work for other people too. So this is collaborative, and it's kind of just a compendium of things I've run across. So that's kind of the spirit of how I envision this going. Did you have anything you'd like to start off with or share on that note, Jordan?
No, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, right? We're not the definitive guide on this. We don't want to provide that, but we both do have experience with working from home. And there's a lot of stuff we hope we can impart, but yeah, we'd love to hear from other people kind of what you're doing. If you're tuning into this, chances are you're probably working from home, like most of the world right now. So we'd love to just hear from you, and also just we're just going to share some of our thoughts. So yeah, you can start us off, Rob. But yeah, it's good stuff. I'm excited for this one.
Awesome, right on. And shout out Self-Publishing with Dale. Dale, great to see you here. Thanks for dropping in. We're happy to have you on the stream here. So I'm going to do my best, at least on YouTube, to display some of these notes that I've put together. So again, these are productivity tips. They are not meant to be definitive or exhaustive, and they are just kind of reflections on our experience as well as things that we've come across. Dale is working and lurking. Sounds good, Dale. Please, please have you. And so it's just designed to be a starting point. So again, anybody who has thoughts and ideas and things that are working for them and anything that they'd like to share, if you're in the live audience or afterward in the recorded video that will be posted on the Archangel Inc. Facebook page, facebook.com/Archangel Inc. Publishing, or the YouTube page, which is archangelinc.com/YouTube. I think I actually did create the vanity site, so it should be youtube.com/Archangel Inc. currently, but still archangelinc.com/YouTube. If you are by some chance listening to this on a recording and want to find us there, that is that is a way to do that. So all right, first order of business that I put together here, setting your day. So what do I mean by setting your day? How are you going to kind of organize your time? What are you going to do? What's your sort of physical routine and getting yourself ready for a hopefully productive or creative day? So my first thought, the thing that's kind of been helpful for me, and just about everybody recommends this, and that is establish a routine and set your hours. So especially coming from a 9 to 5 or an 8 to 4 or whatever it is, pretending that you're still doing that can be really helpful. Getting up and pretending that you have somewhere to go. Obviously, your commute is going to be a little bit shorter if you're just working in another room or in a office section that you've divvied up. as part of your living room or wherever, you don't have to worry about 40 minutes in traffic. But get up and take it seriously. Don't avoid that routine. If you find that you're able to be productive during those normal hours, sometimes it can be really helpful. Hold yourself accountable. And another thing is avoid the temptation to do work in your pajamas. So, recommendation, get dressed, wear whatever business attire you would ordinarily for your job. You want to get yourself into that mindset and into the sort of mental framework that you're actually working. When you're at home and you're lounging about, maybe you're wearing whatever your favorite comfortable clothes are, or jeans and a t-shirt, or whatever you wear casually that might be different from what you wear to work. Make yourself get up, wear your trousers and dress shirt. Make yourself wear your skirt and dress blouse, or whatever it is that you're wearing. Just get dressed and be ready. So that may help to kind of set the stage for a day of actually working, rather than an extended weekend where you're just kind of hanging out and maybe having some late pancake breakfast and taking it easy.
That one can get very tempting too, Robin.
Yep.
The getting dressed thing. The longer you go, if you are just starting the work from home, start this now. Don't be like, I can chill for a couple days, because as soon as you do that, it gets harder and harder to actually get dressed in clothes that are going to make you feel like, okay, it's time to work.
Yeah, I remember I found what I found when I first started the first stint of work from home that I had. In fact, it may have even been a time between work when I was kind of just applying for jobs, and applying for different jobs. If you're not a solopreneur, an entrepreneur, and doing your own thing, or if you're doing that part-time, applying for jobs can be a task unto itself. It can be really a job unto itself. And, again, the temptation is to, all right, well, I've got all day. I can kind of submit my application wherever, as long as I do it at some point before whatever, next week or next month or whatever, then it's fine. But what I found was that actually wearing clothes that I would wear to work, wearing, it doesn't have to be a suit, but maybe it's a suit. Maybe you feel really good and productive and comfortable in a suit. In my case, I like to wear a dress shirt and a blazer, and actually put on shoes and kind of just stand up and move around. And okay, well, now's my work time, and that's kind of a signal or cue for me that this is work time. The other thing is just hold yourself accountable. In general, don't let yourself kind of slide and think, well, I'll just do it later. Just be mindful of that pattern, that hesitation, or that tendency that people have, myself included, probably lots of people out there included. And just hold yourself accountable, and don't let yourself do that. The other thought that I had, Jordan, was you mentioned you can kind of, if you go a day or two or a week or so, and you're like, yeah, it's going to be fine. Like I'll slip into that mode next time. It can, there's that, what's that? An object at rest tends to stay at rest, and an object in motion tends to stay in motion. So having some momentum and giving yourself that lift off can be really helpful. And likewise, if you let yourself, establish that momentum of sliding your day forward and not really doing what you're hoping to do during the day, that can carry some momentum as well. So it's just going to require increasingly more energy and effort to get yourself out of a productivity rut if you find that you're kind of digging that groove. So avoid letting that happen to begin with, and it's going to be more accessible and easy to do as time goes on.
And I think the balance there too is tough to strike, because on the other hand, if this is new to you, working from home, I think it's first of all, it's okay to get take time to get into the groove, but then also if you're home with your family and you have kids, like think of it as an opportunity too. You have time to be there and to have that time. Almost in some ways you've been given a gift of time, and of course you still have to get work done. But we are saying, jump into this and get dressed and all those things. But at the same time, on the other hand, definitely see it as an opportunity as well. Don't miss that chance.
Right.
I think that's just a super important lesson that I think a lot of people are learning from this. and myself included, to take that time to be like, okay, we appreciate this time being home and doing these different things. And yeah, obviously I still want to get work done, but finding a balance there, I think, is just an important thing to at least think about and try to work on.
Yeah.
Tough to answer, but
right. No, I think that's good and important because and we'll get to some of this later. Some of the recommendations I have are kind of polar opposites from each other, different strategies and approaches and different mindsets. And that can be useful. Again, the goal here is creating the intended outcome. However you do that, whatever tools and tips and tactics and ninja strategies that you use to make that happen are totally fine. And I'm all for it. So I think it is important to hold yourself accountable, and at the same time to be easy with yourself. It's I forget who it was. There's some sort of philosophical aphorism. The opposite of a shallow truth is a falsehood. The opposite of a deep truth is another truth. So hold yourself accountable, but also be easy on yourself. And those both are important, and finding that balance can be a little bit difficult, but do that. The other thing, just on that accountability part, one of the recommendations that I find has worked for me is put yourself on that same schedule. So if you if you find that, okay, I definitely need to prioritize some some personal time or some recreation time or some regeneration time, but I do want to be productive. Okay, well, I'm going to work, let's say 8 to 4, 9 to 5, 10 to 3, whatever it is. Find those hours and hold them, and then let it go. At the end of that time, make sure, okay, I'm clocking out. I'm going to give myself a mental break. I'm going to give myself permission to not do those things that I want to do and focus on during my productive time. So anyway, those are some thoughts. All right. So how do we set up a good working space? Working space is important. I find that, again, but being in a position where I am thinking about productivity and it's facilitating productivity is really helpful. So one of the first thoughts is create a physical and or visual barrier. So that can be an entire office, to your household. Maybe you do have an extra room that you can turn into that office, and you can use that just as your office space and just as a place like, okay, this is the I'm entering an arena where I know I'm going to be productive and I'm not going to be distracted and I'm not going to do the other things that maybe keep me away from my goals. Sometimes you don't have that, and you're just creating some sort of physical barrier. Maybe you divvy out a corner of your room with a desk on one side of you and a desk on the other. So you have to physically move around it to be in that workspace. And when I'm there, that's the mindset that I want to be in. Whatever it is, it could be, again, creating some sort of visual barrier. Hang up a curtain rod and a bed sheet or something, and it's like, all right, this is my office. It's very makeshift, but this is the office, and I know when I'm in there, I'm not gonna mess around. There are expectations that I have of myself for that. So the next thing that I learned relatively recently, but it makes sense, avoid working on soft surfaces. So particularly things like your bed, your couch, that comfy little bean bag or something that you have in your office or wherever, in your den. Those are generally places where you are not thinking about productivity. It's more relaxation, recreation, whatever. And those are not spaces to work on. So not saying that you have to be your harshest taskmaster, but practicing some discipline and, using firm chairs or, something. If you're doing a standing desk, having that space around you. Obviously, you can have like an anti-fatigue mat or something underneath. You don't want to hurt yourself needlessly, but but having a space that is not a comfortable spot that you can kind of sink into, and again, get yourself back into that mindset and that framework of recreation and relaxation rather than productivity. That will be helpful in achieving your goals. So
that's a huge one, definitely. I've tried that before. It does not work. I cannot work on the couch, cannot work on the bed. You can try everything. I can do that for a little bit. Nah, you need that separation.
Yeah,
fall asleep.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and that dovetails with other, things like a lot of people recommend, like, don't turn your bed into a place where you play video games or, do whatever. It's like, because it can make it hard for you to actually sleep when it's time to sleep. One of the tools for people who struggle with insomnia or, just having regular sleep is banish all of the other distractions that you have. Make it just the time when you're sleeping, and so that again, you're just sending that little subtle cue to your body. Hey, this is my wind down time. This is when I'm getting ready to retire for the night, and and it's not the time where I'm going to spend scrolling on Instagram and doing whatever other online activities that you might do while you have your smartphone beside you and blah blah blah. So all right. Anyway, yep. Next thing, spend time creating space for productivity. In other words, keep in mind ergonomics. And by ergonomics, I mean, how are you comfortable? Is your workspace actually set up so that you want to be there for stretches of time and that you're able to be productive? Is it somewhere where afterward your neck's kind of creaking and your back's sore? Or again, if you have a standing desk, are you standing on a hard surface and you're getting a jutting pain on your lower back because you're not taking into account the just the ergonomics of the space? Whatever you can, just use ergonomics and create that space. Additionally, on top of that, not just the sort of physical aspect of ergonomics, but sort of the mental or visual aspects of it too. Create a space that is welcoming and inviting. A lot of people find that having a plant or having some artwork or something like that can be really, really helpful. It gives you something to kind of focus your mind and put you in a place where you're relaxed and comfortable, and it's inviting. What is the sort of environment that you can create, or that you have found yourself being most productive in before? Try and reverse engineer that and bring some of those things into this environment that you're creating. Trying to force yourself every day to get over little barriers or little obstacles, like, maybe this chair isn't quite right, but I can kind of live with it. Or maybe I don't really like the height of this desk and my arm hurts a little bit when I'm using my mouse, but I'll get over it. It's a lot easier to make the one-time investment of getting all of that right. Whether that's just like bringing a couple of books to, so that your laptop is at eye level, or, getting a $20 Bluetooth mouse or keyboard so that you can have it set aside in a place that's more comfortable than your laptops, or, whatever it is. Making that one-time investment and getting it right will smooth out the bumps going forward, and it could really pay dividends in terms of making you want to work, and not creating one more little distraction or one more little challenge or impediment to being productive and accomplishing some of the things that you'd like to accomplish.
Yeah, especially, Rob, things like laptop stands, like we say, ergonomic mice, just have those things, those simple things that don't really, it's not a huge investment to get those things, but the dividends they can pay long term, especially if you are going to be working from home. And I'll be working from home for a while now. Invest in those things that are going to make it that much more, not necessarily comfortable, because like we said, we don't want to be too comfortable.
Right.
You don't want to end the day, man, like my neck is killing me. And sometimes that is just going to be what it's going to be, working from a computer. I don't think we were meant to work from a computer for hours and hours every day, but there are things you can do just to make it that much easier. When you're thinking, you don't want to just be sitting at a desk hunched over a laptop for months. That's really tough on, if you're crunched up looking down. You can get a thing like a neck stand. You just type in laptop stand on Amazon and see different things. But just think about, and this from this is my understanding, you want basically the center of your screen to be where what you're looking at, eye level. So basically, if I'm sitting up, you really want the middle of your screen to be at the eye level. And it's hard. It's hard for me to find that as a taller guy. I'm 6'4". I have the stand set to the max, and it's still not even as high as it should be. I had my screen back at home when I had a standing desk. I had standing desk as tall as it would go. I had 4 books plus the Bible in there with the monitor on there, really trying to get it up there. It is worth it. It can be hard. It can look funny, But just think about those things. Think about, middle of the screen, eye level. And for the most part, most people don't have that. They're looking way down.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's good to mix that up a little bit. You can crick your neck either way, but just try to find something that's comfortable for you.
Yep. Absolutely. And then the other thing that I've learned, and again, I'm not an ergonomics expert, so please
me neither.
Do your research and figure out what works for you and what the best practices and recommendations are. But in terms of your arms and you want your elbow basically to be at kind of 90 degrees. And so if you're operating your mouse, you don't want your arm to be, let's see, kind of creeped up like this, and you don't want it to be all the way down and kind of reaching below your 90-degree point. Like, what is the comfortable midway point for your elbow or arm to be sitting at, and that's a good spot to be for for at least digital productivity.
That's helpful. I did not know that one. I'll be thinking about that one too.
Yeah, I mean, and I would imagine it would be the same for typing too. If you're if you're kind of moving and your keyboard's up here and you're kind of whatever doing that kind of thing, may not work as well. So just where your arm is going to be comfortable, and I guess that is generally roughly at a 90-degree angle for your elbow.
And your body will let you know too. If you start getting cricks, and even if you start feeling like something up in your back or your shoulder, it's all connected. Mm-hmm. Just be aware of that and be aware of like your tension points, I guess, while you're working.
Right. Yep, for sure. And then this is apropos, I think, for a lot of people who are working from home and kind of staying in with other members of their family when they're not ordinarily, and that is to set up do not disturb cues. So for me, I have a home office, and so when that door is closed, it's that's kind of my signal for, hey, I'm productive, and kind of just unless there's an emergency or something important, don't just come knock on it for casual conversation. This is kind of just that designated time. Another thing that can work well is using headphones. If you have your headphones on, that's kind of the cue. Hey, mom's working, dad's working. Like, this is unless there's something important, now's not the time. And then once those headphones come off, it's, oh, hey, did you hear about this game, or did you see whatever, did you see this meme, whatever, something that's kind of distracting and a little bit lighthearted and not as essential, to kind of interrupt workflow. So that would be my next recommendation there. Did you have any other thoughts on any of those that you'd like to share, Jordan?
No, I think you mentioned all of them there. It is especially, my wife and I, Brandon and I, have had to really work on that, because we've been working in the same place in the apartment for the past week. Usually we have a co-working space, but we just haven't been there because I'm pretty sure they're going to be shutting that down, at least for the time being. Having those times of a little bit of separation. Hey, I'm working. If you're doing certain projects, maybe it's okay if you are interrupted. But if you're doing the more like flow projects, like writing, or really when you really need that focus, you do need those do not disturb cues. We were talking about that the other day, Rob. It's funny. I was trying to work on that and figure it out. While I'm writing, I said, do I need to get like a flag or something? And trying to figure that out. We both, I do it more than she does. I interrupt her all the time. She's sitting there probably laughing now. I interrupt all the time, and I'm like, oh, sorry, I came in hot there. She's like, well, I was working, but it's okay. And like for me, I'm totally fine if I'm interrupted for the most part. But if I'm writing and working on a longer project, maintaining that train of thought and that deep work focus is really important. And it's, and there's no way, how is she supposed to know if I'm working on that or not? We're still trying to develop those cues when we're working like kind of in the same space, but it's good stuff. It's good thought. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it can vary. And like you said, by all means, everybody out there who feel free to experiment. I mean, I'm thinking of if anybody's ever been to a Brazilian steakhouse. I don't know if you have, Jordan, but
a few times. I loved it, but yeah,
it's fun. And the way it's worked, at least the ones that I've been to, is they have servers coming by with different cuts of meat and different things, and you have a paddle in this case, and one side is green and one side is red, and if the paddle is turned green, it means, hey, come on over, see if I'd like some more. If it's red, it's, hey, hold off, I'm a little full right now, or I'm taking a break. And and that way they don't have to stop by every person and disturb them. You're actively participating in sending that signal out. And as long as the other person knows what that signal means and is honoring it, the communication is wordless and effective. So that
I don't know about you, Rob, but I always felt a little bit bad about turning it over to Red. I was like, oh, I'm defeated. I didn't want to be defeated. I wanted to be here all night.
Too soon. What happened? I love those when I have a chance to go. So if anybody who's not a vegetarian generally is interested in a Brazilian steakhouse, often they are a little bit of a higher end option, but they're delicious and they're fun. So, okay. Anyway, let's go up to some of the tactics and strategies and tips that I have come across that may work for some people out there. So, daily productivity tactics. So the first one, create a to-do list. Pretty simple, pretty basic. A lot of people talk about it. A lot of people do it. I find that it works actually pretty well for me. And, I'll just make a list. One of the things that I like to do is break it down into lots of little constituent parts. So as I cross things off, I feel like I'm gaining momentum and like there are, small wins. So, even just around the household, let's say you're like, okay, well, I want to clean the kitchen. What does cleaning the kitchen look like? Well, maybe it looks like cleaning the dishes, cleaning the glasses even, and then cleaning the plates and then cleaning the silverware. And then it means sweeping, and maybe it means mopping. And then maybe it means, cleaning the stovetop, whatever it is, include those things down there so that you can kind of see what your needs are for the day, what your productivity goals are. And then as you cross them off, that can be, kind of encouraging and supportive of your productivity.
Yeah, one bonus with that, Rob, I think it can be really helpful. Instead of starting the day with creating your to-do list, I think it's usually more beneficial, at least for me, to schedule the next day. So wherever I'm at right now, okay, let's see what I need to do tomorrow. Certainly there's still things you can do now,
right,
but it really does help to schedule your next day so that you don't have to wake up, okay, what am I doing today? Yep. I got in the habit of doing that a lot. I'd wake up, okay, hey, what do I feel like working on today? I'll make a to-do list. I'll make a to-do list on my to-do list, and that's not necessarily the most productive thing to do. The more you can plan ahead and schedule those things, I found that the better off I am to wake up, okay, I already have my to-do list. I don't really even need to think about what I need to do. I just need to get to work.
Yep.
And not being a morning person, that really does actually help me. I can sit down and look at it. Okay, I'm going to do that. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's it can be a way to kind of grease the wheels, and this is going to come up a little bit later, but I'll jump into it now as a writing specific tactic. This is something I believe that Hemingway supposedly did, which was he finished his daily writing literally mid sentence. So when he would have his he'd have a thought that he's like, okay, well, I know what I'm going to say here. Boom, and he'd cut it off right in the middle, so that when he came back the next day, his mind was almost percolating on it overnight, and he was able to jump right in. So sometimes people find that just starting off on the writing process can be difficult, but it's that much easier when you already basically finished it yesterday and you're just finishing that thought. And then it's like, oh, well, I did that half a sentence. Let me just keep going. It may be easier for you to do that. And that could be a tip that you can try. And similar here, you create your to-do list the night before. You're like, okay, so that's half of the process that I've set out for the day. Now I just have to start doing it, and again, just removes one additional impediment to your productivity goals. All right, moving on. We have create a have done list. So a have done list. Sometimes people do that later on in the week or at the end of the day. You're kind of like, all right, well, what did I do today? What do I have to feel good about? What do I have as my set of accomplishments? How can I feel positive about my actions? And when you do that, you think, actually, man, there's a lot that I've done, and I feel pretty good about it. Maybe beforehand you were feeling a little dejected or guilty or despondent or something because you feel, well, I'm not making the most of my time here, and maybe you let that sort of negative self-talk start to reach you. When you have a have done list, you're like, no, this is a statement back to that whatever negative feedback loop that you might have in your mind that's keeping you from unlocking your productivity. So yeah, just like, all right, well, what did I do today? Okay, well, I did X, Y, Z, A, B, C, B and D. I didn't do, G and H, but that's okay. I did all those other things, and now I'm ready to attack it for tomorrow. So again, this is the opposite approach to the anti-to-do list, but for some people it works really well. So if that appeals to you, feel free to give that a shot.
I like that one, Rob, because I think it is sometimes, to-do lists are great, but sometimes they can get a little bit overwhelming because you have that thought at the end of the day, I didn't get everything done on my list, and then it can kind of be defeating a little bit. But I like the idea of kind of going back. Okay, what did I do today? Okay, I did go on a run. Okay, I did do this one part of this work project. Okay, I started writing a little bit. I like that idea. I might start implementing that myself. I think that's cool because it is hard for me, and maybe a lot of people too, to kind of relish in the achievements and accomplishments a little bit, even if they're small ones that you have during the day. I think even just a couple minutes at the end of the day, that could be really cool. I like that one.
Yeah, right on. Awesome. So next one, the most important task approach. So sometimes people can become overwhelmed when they've got a million different things and they haven't really identified what the key task is. They're like, I don't even know where to get started. I've got 40 different things I can be doing. So what's your most important task? What is the single thing that you can say, all right, if I get this one thing accomplished today, the day will have been a success, or at least a reasonable success. That also can force you to prioritize things and figure out where you need to be delegating if possible. What are the things that are actually going to kind of move the needle for you and help you to get closer to whatever it is that you're trying to reach, and what are the things that are really not essential, but you might want to do them, but maybe now's not the time, or maybe they're just not the highest priority, or they could be delegated off. They don't necessarily require your direct involvement. So you find the most important task and you do that. And a number of different productivity authors have talked about it. I think I was first introduced to it by Nate Miyake, who is an author that we published previously. I think Steve Scott has written about this in some of his goal setting works. And so most important thing is another strategy that some people employ. Most important task or most important thing, whatever, the MIT.
There you go.
So the next one that I want to mention is the Pomodoro Technique. So this is pretty widely known and practiced. And that is, Pomodoro actually, I believe is Italian, and it was a tomato. And so this person who came up with it had a timer, like a kitchen timer that was a tomato. And I think it was like a 25-minute timer that was the Pomodoro length. And they would use that, and they're like, okay, now I can take a break. That's my cue. So it's a way of utilizing your time stretches, dedicated time stretches to be productive. So to summarize again, and I alluded to it, but I'll be more explicit. Pomodoro typically, or at least conventionally, is 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off. So that's one Pomodoro, and you do that. You give yourself that planned break, so you have something to look forward to, while you're focusing. Having an achievable sense of relief or just a break can be really helpful and allow you to kind of push through and not become distracted. And then you have that planned break. And then I think typically once you complete 4 Pomodoros, you have a longer break. So it's kind of, think about an 8-hour workday. Maybe you have your hour-long lunch, but in each of the 4-hour blocks in between, you're allowed a 15-minute break. At the 2-hour mark, and then again at the 6-hour mark. Something like that. So you do that. Use that. Maybe go take a walk. Do whatever it is that's going to help you recharge and refresh. Just kind of rest your eyes, maybe from the computer screen, and just giving yourself that time. Sort of setting, that time allotment to be productive, and that time allotment to, go and hang out check your email, check your Facebook, check your Instagram, whatever it is that you like to do. You have that built in so that you don't become so distracted and, kind of go down a rabbit hole, and that becomes all of your day.
Yep. Yeah, I think I've been starting to use this actually the last couple of days, Rob. So it's cool that you put it on there. I didn't know you were going to. I had it in my notes as well. I found it really helpful because it's very easy, especially if we're working from home and in more of a lockdown mode. it's easy to just sit here all day and be focused on that. For me, it's forced me to, okay, I'm going to pause whatever I'm doing, get up, stretch, move around. I can get back to work soon. But yeah, having that, I know we're jumping into the next one a little bit, but yeah, having that consistent motion where you're not just sitting, even if it's a super comfortable, you took all our advice, you have a super ergonomic setup, it's still good to take breaks and at least give your eyes a rest and give your brain just a chance to reset, because that's how you can really do this for the long haul. You can always hustle through and always power through, but we really do need breaks before we realize that we do. And this is I've found it helpful so far, and I know a lot of other people have found it helpful in being able to force breaks on yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think some people probably are real outliers, and they can actually focus hard and intently for 8 or 10 hours a day. But the reality is, I think most of us, an 8-hour workday, you might actually have 4 or 5 or 6 hours of real dedicated focused work, but and have those kind of breaks in between, which allows the rest of that to happen. And that's important. The other thing that I found, and I never knew this technique by name, but I kind of developed a version of this when I was in college, and I would kind of say, all right, well, I'm going to do this for a half hour, and then this for a half hour, and this for, and plan my breaks. Sometimes I would kind of get into a writing mode or, a researching mode or whatever it is, whatever the task was that I was engaged in, and my 30 minutes would be up, or 25 minutes or whatever. And I was like, no, I'm going through, forget it. Like I'm plowing through, and there's almost a sense of rebelliousness to it, but it was harnessed, toward productivity, toward this thing that ultimately was a little bit difficult to get started on. But it was like, no, don't tell me what to do. I'm going to keep reading after 30 minutes. I'm going to keep writing. Like, I'm going to get one more page done. Yeah. And so you can use those kind of mental hacks. I mean, and ultimately, in some ways, a lot of these productivity hacks are just ways of engaging in a little bit of self-trickery, and taking advantage of, like your higher functioning with your I don't know, your lower functioning, like the lazy or kind of just sedentary parts of you, and then trying to kind of trick them and bring them along for the ride so that you can enjoy the fruits that you can create. So yeah, having this technique, some people will say, like, really force yourself to do that 5 off. And that may be really motivating and recharging. But sometimes, if you're like, no, I don't care. I'm going another Pomodoro. I'm just jumping right in. And if that works for you, feel free to do that. Again, totally agnostic. Whatever works for you, experiment freely, and see what sort of results that you get. All right, moving on. We've got get regular movement, and this is something that you mentioned a moment ago. Just getting up. A lot of people, for me, I have, one of those exercise trackers, and every hour, if I don't get the certain number of steps, it'll say, hey, get up, you've got 100 steps to go, or you've been sitting too long, and just kind of move around. Obviously, if you are encouraged to stay indoors, you can't go for a run or a walk necessarily, but, I like to do squats or push-ups or burpees, or, just something that's kind of an inside workout. Other people, they'll do stretches, or, just something to kind of give your body what it needs in terms of movement and blood flow and all of that to continue to stay focused.
Yep.
Cool. Moving on. Make use of ambient noise. So a lot of people find that having some sort of noise blocker, whether it's a white noise machine or some background music, classical music. For me personally, I can't really focus if there are lyrics. So I like a lot of non-lyrical music that can be really helpful. Just give you something going on in the background to help you kind of focus and, pay attention to something else, while that's happening. One of the things that a lot of people recommend, and that I actually really like and have started using a little bit recently, is video game music, whether that's actual, classic video games, or that I'm familiar with, or you just kind of in that style of video game music, because that's kind of what happens in a video game. You're focused on whatever task it is. You're playing Mario, and you're trying to go through that whatever level. The music in the background is there. It's kind of setting the stage for it, but it's designed not to be distracting. It's designed not to catch your attention and keep you from completing whatever level you're on, whatever goal or mission or task that you're you're trying to complete on on that particular game. So video game music can be really helpful. A lot of people find that useful, and I have personally. So if you'd like, you can search online. There, on YouTube even. Some of them.
Spotify has playlists, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, exactly. Whatever sort of music or streaming app that you have, give it a shot. Feel free to do a little search. I also do like lo-fi hip hop, or some people do like coffee break or coffee house sounds. They just like that sense, even if you're not actually in a coffee house and out in an additional space, just having the sounds of people kind of chatting and doing their own thing. Again, experiment around, see what sort of ambient noise might help with your productivity. Moving on, utilize technology. There are different apps that can help you to kind of stay focused. One of them, again, StayFocusd. So apps that maybe will disable social media or whatever your distractions are. Like, oh man, I just have to stay off, Facebook. Like, I know that I get sunk into it. I start scrolling, and all of a sudden it's a half hour later, and I can't let that happen. So apps like this allow you to be kind of intentional about it and say, all right, you get this many minutes allotted per day or per hour, or whatever it is, and they can keep you kind of on the straight and narrow, and help you achieve your goals until, again, maybe you're like, all right, I'm clocking out at 5, and then I can just veg out and do whatever distracting thing that I like to do for a half hour or an hour, without any guilt.
Yeah.
The other thing that some people find can be really helpful is setting calendar reminders throughout the day. So we talked about setting up your workspace. Setting up your work day can be really helpful, and just kind of automating your life. Some people, I read one person describing, my iPhone calendar, just controls my life. I don't have to think about it. I set it up, and I know that at 10:45 every morning I'm going to do this, and then at 11:30 I'm going to do this, and I'm going to, and so forth. And you can set it up to buzz, or to send a ringtone or whatever it is. I just tell you, you're like, okay, this is what you're going to do, and obviously you have to set it up yourself. But some people find that having that really high level of structure can aid their productivity. So feel free to give that a shot too. Any thoughts on any of that, Jordan?
Nope, I don't have any. Nope. Good
Cool.
stuff.
All right. So another thing that some people recommend, start with your hardest task. Something that's going to kind of be a slog, and get you through the day. You're like, all right, when you're at your highest productivity level, when you're just starting out, like, all right, let's just dive in and start making some progress. That can work for a lot of folks. Conversely, maybe you want to start with the easiest task. Maybe you want to do something that's going to kind of give you an easy win, some sort of momentum, and get you going. That that if that helps you, feel free to give that a shot as well. Do you find that you either of those appeal more to you, Jordan, or
Definitely. I was just gonna share. Yeah, I'm all in the easiest task game. If I knew I was gonna start with the hardest task every day, it would be harder for me to sit down and start. I know that is advice that a lot of people give, but yeah, I think again, it really is whatever works for you. For me, if I can sit down and get started with an easy thing, cross it off my list. Okay, I'm in game mode. Now I can do what's the hardest thing. That's easy now because I've started.
Right.
I think it just depends. If you need that quick win, the big win motivation to keep going, I think that can certainly work, and I know it does work for some people. But yeah, I'm all about the easiest task game. What about you?
Yeah, generally I like the easy task game as well. The rationale and the way that starting with the hardest task has worked for me sometimes before is because sometimes I'll do the easy task just as a way to avoid doing the hard task, and I know that I'm not ever going to do it. And if I just kind of force myself to jump into it, it's like, all right, this is a big project. This is an important chapter, or important email, or whatever it is that a long section of audio that I'll be working on. If I don't just dive in, like, I'm just gonna find reasons not to do it. But yes, in general, I'm more of the easy task kind of person. Anybody out there watching or listening and the replay, let us know. Are you more of a start with an easy task or start with a difficult task to aid in your productivity? I think just people have different preferences and different patterns. So curious to see if there's any pattern among our viewership and listenership out there.
Yeah, and one more thing with that, Robbie. I think for me too, like sometimes if the hardest task becomes that task that really never gets done and it keeps getting put on your to-do list, I think you either need to get real with yourself, just cross it off, either just don't do it, delegate, get someone else to do it, or then go for that. Okay, tomorrow I'm doing that. Like, I have no more excuses. I've decided it's important for me to do. I can't delegate it. I have to do it. Like, let's just do it and get it done. Hopefully you can find that if you can get your momentum going early, you're not going to have that happen. But I think there's probably eventually going to be some things on your to-do list that you're just like, I don't want to do that. I don't feel like doing that. It's hard. But yeah, there's going to be times where you just got to get it done, and maybe it's just going to end up, you have to do it first, and just get it done, get that big win for the day.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree with that. So next up, another thing that might help some people, find an accountability partner. Particularly when you're a lot of people are now working from home. Maybe it's a colleague, maybe it's somebody in your office, or maybe it's somebody in a related industry or an unrelated industry. Whatever is easiest, just somebody that you can chat with and say, hey, this is kind of what I'd like to do, and let's touch base, and every week, or every day, or every couple of weeks, whatever it is, and kind of hold ourselves accountable. Hey Jordan, you said that you wanted to get a couple of chapters done this week, and then you also wanted to make sure to work out at least 4 times this week. How'd that go? What happened? And then maybe you can talk about it, why it happened, why it didn't happen, what made it easier, what made it more difficult, and then kind of just share some ideas. Well, maybe next week, if you struggle with this, what about that? And offer some different constructive feedback. Having an accountability partner can help you set up better habits, but it also can kind of force you, like, I know Jordan last week got his 2 chapters done. I told him that I'm going to get a chapter done, and I didn't. So I really got to, kind of buckle up and make it happen. And, that can be a good motivator for some people.
Yeah, I think for whatever reason, the whole word accountability does get a bad rap. But I think, it's really a way to help you get stuff done. Like you just said, you place an expectation on someone else, but it's really for the two of you to get done what you want to get done. Especially if you are in a more entrepreneurial position, you're choosing what you want to get done. And an accountability partner helps you get done what you've decided you want to get done. So really, there's nothing, I don't see anything inherently wrong with it. I think accountability is great, because especially if you are someone that needs that. Now, maybe you're just going to be you're going to be fine. You're going to write stuff on a to-do list and get it done. But yeah, it really can. And I found this too. It can help to have other people that you're placing the expectation on. Next time I talk to them, they're going to ask me if I got this done. I don't want to not disappoint them, but hey, I want to be able to talk to that person and say, yeah, I didn't just get 2 chapters done. I got 3 done this past week. Yeah. What did you do? Right. Be competitive, like whatever your personality, but
yeah, it could be competitive. It could be, or it could be just like, hey, maybe you struggle with doing things and feeling like, I may not be able to do this for me, but I'm going to be able to do this for Jordan. I'm going to be able to do this for somebody else. Having a bigger sense of purpose can, and somebody else that you, that's kind of relying on you can be really helpful. Got a couple comments here. So Mojo Seedlack, thanks for stopping in. Hard first. She's definitely a hard first kind of person. That's why she did it first. And then Dale stopping in as well. Dale, good to see it in the comments here. So I like that accountability partner thing, and that can be helpful. And like you said, if it's something where it's like every week you're like, sorry, Jordan, I still didn't write that chapter. Sorry, I'm still struggling with this audio project. Maybe that's the cue for you to have that heart to heart with yourself. Like, realistically, this just isn't happening. Like, what can I do? What can I do to make it, to delegate it out, or to get by without it, and kind of use that feedback and trust that feedback a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely conversations you can have with other people too. Sometimes you need that insight, because I think that really, that's a huge thing. That does often happen as an impediment to us getting our goals and finishing things out. Right. Are those tasks that are just like, and then they get stuck on a to-do list, and then you lose momentum, and then you're like, I'm not going to do it. But yeah, really, it's just taking a step back and deciding and saying, hey, what am I going to do about this? Is it that I don't have time? Is it that I don't want to do it? Do I need some motivation? Instead of just continuing to write it to the next day. And like I said, I've been totally guilty of this, myself, but it really can help to kind of take a step back and say, okay, this keeps appearing. Why haven't I gotten this done yet? Like,
Right. Yeah.
and then kind of going from there. And an accountability partner can really be helpful with that, because you can ask them,
Yeah.
well, what do you think I should do about this? Maybe I should just forget it and move on to something else. And maybe that's the answer.
Right.
And that's
Yeah.
fine.
Well, and sometimes, it could work both ways. They can help you get clarity about the fact that it might be time to move on, or conversely, help you reconnect to the reason why you have it on your to-do list to begin with. And you're like, oh, that's right. It's not just this thing that's sort of abstract that I'm holding myself to and have to flog myself over. It's actually meaningful in this specific way. And that's going to give you the juice that you need to move forward. So there are some online accountability tools. I haven't tried any of these, but a lot of people have used them, and feel free to do them. One called Stickk, which I don't know, maybe that's like carrot in the stick. The carrot is the goal, and the stick is usually the way that a lot of these work is you often put money on the line. Like, all right, I'm going to have $5 up if I don't exercise every day for this period of time. This is how I'm going. I'm going to pay $50 toward this thing, or give it over. BeeMinder is a similar one. Another one, which I will not, at the risk of demonetization, pronounce fully, GoF-ingDoIt. And it's a little bit simpler. So basically you put your money like in escrow or something. And it's like, all right, well, if you don't do it, then that money's gone. Some of them even have, can connect that money to charities. So you're like, well, I didn't do it, but I at least, donated to wildlife fund, or, something like that. Or, you can connect them to anti-charity. So for a cause that you're not a fan of, the other, like you're into wildlife conservation, and, this is some charity all dedicated to, I don't know, urbanization and development, or, whatever it is, some political charity or some social charity that you like or don't like, you can set those up, and those could be motivations for some people as well. So another one is utilize SMART goals. And SMART goals are, and that SMART is an acronym for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. So that can help you kind of pin down what it is that you're trying to do. Maybe you say, okay, what's my SMART goal? I want to run a marathon, in the New York Marathon this upcoming November. Okay, so how can I do that? It's a specific goal. You can break it down into smaller tasks. What's measurable about that? Is it attainable? Is it relevant to your overall life goals? Your 2-year goal, your 5-year goal, your 10-year goal, whatever it is, and give yourself a specific amount of time to do it. So that can help turn something that's sort of abstract, like, man, I want to write a book. I'd like to publish a book, to, okay, how can I break that down into SMART goals? Okay, maybe the SMART goal is the first chapter, and then the subsequent chapters, and then, okay, I'm gonna have a cover. I'm gonna build a cover, or I'm gonna work on editing. All of those things can be broken down into their constituent parts, and utilizing that can maybe give a little bit more concreteness to it, and make it so that it's you always know what specifically you are responsible for doing next, rather than I want it to happen, but what's going on? I don't even know how to make it so. So doing a little bit of forethought and planning it out can be really helpful. So SMART goals are a strategy that some people use.
Yep, really, really, really helps to know what your desire is and where you're going. If you're trying to build tasks and trying to build out your day, it really does help to have that foundation. Okay, I'm doing this for this reason, and that can really help. Like we said before, it can help you not to have those tasks that just get stuck on your to-do list. If you like Rob, you were saying, if you have that communication and reminder and accountability partner, this is why you're doing it. Well, this is one way that you can kind of stay ahead of that. If you know why you're doing what you're doing, it can really help you to have that continued motivation to get it done.
Yeah. And, one of the recurring themes of these productivity tips is, kind of bringing some awareness and forethought to it. So when you set it out ahead of time, you kind of take the guesswork out at the various individual stages, whether when you're doing something like this, all right, this is the specific SMART goal that that I'm going to do, and when I'm complete with that, I'm ready to kind of game plan out the next one. You bring some forethought and planning to it, so that when you're in the midst of it, you're not kind of floundering and can't figure it out. And the same thing, when you create your to-do list, you're like, okay, well, I've got that one thing checked off. It's time to go on to the next one. You're just trying to remove roadblocks, remove impediments to, whatever it is that might be taking you away from your productivity goals. Cool. All right. So moving on, and we've got track and capitalize on your most productive times. That's really helpful. Some people find that they're morning people, or they're night owls, or, the middle of the day is really when they can focus and make some headway on things. Particularly, I mean, if you have some scheduling flexibility, making sure to work during those most productive times and to rest during the less productive times, that can really take advantage of your own internal rhythms. And, that requires, just kind of paying attention, and maybe it's as simple as, tracking how are you feeling, hour by hour, and then do that over the course of a week or 2 weeks or a month, and then see if there are any patterns that emerge. You're like, oh man, I find that like 2 o'clock, I'm always like locked in, and this is my time. So maybe I'm gonna start my my most difficult goals at 1 o'clock, so that when 2 o'clock comes around, like I'm ready to go. Or vice versa. Like I need to chill at the beginning or at the end of the day. So let me set my easy tasks for those times. Again, it's going to require some awareness and some, maybe some logging that could be really helpful. But if not logging, then just paying attention and kind of bookmarking in your head what's going on, and observing those patterns. I would certainly recommend, actually, as I'm kind of talking this out, to recommend logging, because we think that we're going to remember more than we do often. And you're like, oh, I definitely got this. Like if you ever wake up in the middle of the night with a good idea, and you're like, the morning time, I'll write this down. This is going to be perfect. Yeah. How many times has that just disappeared over the course of the next sleep cycle? So, over the course of several weeks or months, finding those sorts of patterns can be really difficult, and isolating and identifying them may be aided pretty effectively with logging and tracking. Just taking a little set of notes, and make it as easy or as sophisticated as you want, but doing that can be helpful. So we've got moving on. Now we've got some writing specific tactics. I mentioned one of them a little bit earlier, and that was finish your daily writing mid-sentence. So that can be a way to kind of just get right back in the groove. Like, okay, I knew what I was going to say here, and now that I'm already writing, my fingers are already on the keyboard. Then the next sentence comes that much easier. But other strategies that people have utilized, let's see, we've got set some word count minimums. A lot of people recommend that. Like, okay, I'm going to write 500 words a day. I'm going to write 1,000 words a day. I'm going to write 10,000 words a day. Whatever it is, wherever you're at in your journey, that can help. And you're like, all right, well, it's going to be whatever it's going to be, but I'm not leaving this chair. I'm not leaving this office until I reach that minimum. And that can work really well. The other thing that a little bit different, but some people find is really helpful, is to set time minimums. So you might say, all right, well, I'm going to be productive for an hour, or a half hour, either, whatever it is. And whatever happens during that half hour, I don't know. It doesn't matter. Like I might get 1,000 words out. I might get 10 words out, but I'm going to do that. And that's just going to be a dedicated part of my day. Hassan Osman, who we've worked with and produced an audiobook for, and has a Writer on the Side podcast. That's his preferred strategy. I really appreciate that. One of the things that he says that he does, because the word count minimum hasn't worked for him. He's tried that, but time minimum has worked. And he's like, sometimes I'm writing, but other times I'm researching or I'm editing, and I'm just getting ready. I just know that I have that block of time, and it's going to be a distraction-free block of time. And that is how I'm going to continue to build on this and make progress. And I think that is a cool strategy, something that kind of appeals to me. Although, again, a lot of people find that the word count minimum is more effective. Do you have any experience with either of these, Jordan, or preference?
I don't necessarily limit it either way. I think, it's not something I really practice. If I have a project, I'm just going to go in and I'm going to work on, I think I do it more on a project basis. If I'm going to be writing this book or if I'm working on this specific blog post or whatnot,
Mhm.
I'm going to spend time minimums on getting that project done.
Right.
For me, word count minimums aren't really, it's just not my cup of tea. I think I'm with Hassan on that. I don't know if I would have been able to spell it out like he did, but I really like what you were saying. If you're going in with word count minimums, in some ways, you're just trying to get words in the page. And I think that can be helpful because, it can help you to really it can help you to get words out there and get that experience. But, for me, a lot of my time is also spent researching and making sure the words I'm putting out aren't just fluff and aren't just crazy. I don't want the people reading to have no takeaway from it. And I'm not saying that if you're just having word count minimums that your writing's going to be junk. But yeah, I think it's just okay. I only wrote 200 words this hour, but I was also doing a ton of research and making sure that I was saying accurate things. So for me, I'm in the
Oh no, I think we lost Jordan here. So
answer.
he might be coming back on. Hey, are you back?
Yes, was I
Okay.
gone for a bit?
I got I think most of it. You said for you if you were going to, and we lost you for just a moment.
I would say if I would choose, I would do the time minimums. Probably longer answer than we needed for that, but yeah.
No, all good. No, I like that too. But again, this is just a bunch of different strategies, not exhaustive entirely, but and certainly not definitive, but experiment freely. This is a potpourri of ideas. So yeah, Dale lost both of us for a second. So hopefully we're both back. We'll see. It does say that we're live, so that's good. Thank you, Dale, for the feedback here. Hopefully everything is good. Give us a thumbs up or something if you don't mind, if we're coming back in. So I will continue on though, just in case, and assume that we're back and good to go. The last writing specific tip that I wanted to share was to encourage a shoddy first draft. So this is a real big hang up for a lot of people, myself included. Okay, you're good, Dale. Thank you, Dale. So you have this idea of quality and like you just have something really good that you want to communicate and get out there, and it's not quite right, and you write a sentence and then you remove half of it and then you write another half of it and then you remove a third of it, and you're just kind of stuck working on that one sentence, and that is a recipe for many people. Thanks, Mojo. Mojo, we're getting a thumbs up from as well. That's a recipe for not being able to actually ever complete your draft. So I really liked I forget who it was. Some author recommended, hey, like give yourself permission to write a really crappy first version of the book. It's not going to be the final version. It's a draft for a reason, but once you have it out there, you can cut and slice and dice and edit and rearrange and make coherent and beautiful from that point. But you can't do that when it's not actually on the screen, when it's not actually on paper. And if it's all in your head and you're trying to do all that rearranging and wordsmithing, you are very often going to just kind of stymie yourself. And so it's okay. It's okay to have a really crappy first draft. Your first draft, it doesn't have to be something that anybody except for you even sees, if that's helpful, or it could be a trusted colleague and editor, whoever. But just get it out there, get it complete to the best of your ability. Just complete, and then you can kind of chop it up from there.
Yeah, Rob, 100%. Yeah, definitely, totally agree with this one. When you're writing a book, get that first draft done. I was thinking about just our recent suggestion about the word count minimum or time minimum. If having a word count minimum will help you to get your book done and get the first draft done, then do that. Do whatever is going to work for you to meet that goal. For me, as I was just thinking about this, as you were talking about the shoddy first draft here, when I've done this for my last 2 books that I've written, instead of having the dailies, what I've done is I've set minimum word count that I'm looking for the books around 35,000 to 40,000. And what I've done is I've calculated the words in that total as I go. So the first day, boom, I got 2,000 words done. I write that on a little thing. And then the next day, or the next time I work on it, how many words did I add? So to me, that's helpful to see where I'm at in my process toward hitting that goal. And that's why I like to break it up more for projects. You could do the same thing, I guess, if you were writing blog posts and you had, they needed to be a certain word length. You could do the same thing. Okay, I got a blog post. I need 3,000 words. I'm going to write 500 words a day, or I'm just going to track my progress on it and get there. That's been helpful to me. But again, whatever helps you get to that final first draft is really huge, because once you have that, it's much easier to go back through and move stuff around and change it and edit it and then create that final product. The first draft does not have to be good, and my first drafts are terrible. Right. But that's okay. It's totally okay, because me going back through it, my editor can look at it. It really can make a huge difference. Just getting it done can give you that much more momentum instead of getting stuck in that I gotta move this around, and then maybe you get in that phase of like, it's been weeks and I can't figure it out. Really just push through that and get it done.
Right. I think sometimes it's an ego thing as well. You're like, well, I don't want crap. I don't want to put out this junk. So I would encourage everybody to leave that at the door and just know that, this is totally normal, and everybody who produces good content has gone through this. And, very rare is the person who produces their final draft as their first draft. And, you don't have to create perfection. You don't have to let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And, just get it done and get it complete, and then go from there. You can start chiseling and sculpting away, but you don't have to get it all right on the first time. And it's not a reflection of your work ultimately, or your caliber or quality as a writer to have a first draft. A first draft is a first draft for a reason. So that's one other.
I think it's just the idea that don't let fear of that stop you. I think it's the same reason why a lot of people aren't necessarily going to get on and do a YouTube Live or Facebook Live. I'm not saying we're awesome for doing it, but just think about, like, we're not perfect. I'm stumbling over my words sometimes. I don't have it scripted exactly what I'm going to say. We're just trying to provide that value. And it doesn't. We know really into this, Rob, that it's not going to be perfect. There's going to be times where we're like, do we have anything more to say on that? I don't know. And then it's fun, and if you can have fun with it, especially if you're writing your first draft. And writing a book in general, if you have fun with it and enjoy the process, it's going to go that much better.
Right. Yeah. I'm trying to remember the way it was written. It was sort of pithy, but it was something like quantity first, then quality. So, you'll get to quality over time, one, by just honing your craft, but two, by just producing, a boatload of content, and you get better bit by bit, one iteration at a time. Oh yeah, I just realized like this live stream, for example, realizing that I can have comments up on here, so that's really cool. And then just trying to prepare my notes and have some ideas there, rather than just two talking heads. And having that as a framing device. I'm sure there are things that maybe in a year or two, if we're still doing this, we'll look back like, boy, did you remember when we were just doing X, Y, and Z, and we hadn't even incorporated A, B, and C yet. So you do it bit by bit, and I like that point. Just have fun with it. Give yourself permission to make some mistakes, but just enjoy the process, and commit yourself to that process of being consistent and getting better over time, and that can really help in getting past that first draft phase. So. Okay, moving on. Concluding thoughts. Did you have any other thoughts that you wanted to share? I've got just a couple here, but anything that you'd like to mention as we start to wrap things up?
Nope, I'll think about it, but I think I'm good.
Cool. So I'll just reiterate what I've mentioned before a couple of times, and that is experiment freely. Find what works for you. We are very agnostic about this. I'm not saying that this one way is the right way, whatever that one way is. Obviously, I gave, a dozen or so different tactics and strategies, and some of them are deliberately opposite to each other. And, because sometimes one group of people will benefit from that and another from their opposite. So yeah, just kind of figure out what works for you. And this is a a free exchange here. So, and then finally,
Yeah, Rob, I want to say one thing about that. I think it can get so easy to hear that and think, that's a cop out, or
right,
like just do it works for you. But it really is super key to just have the mindset that like maybe the situation you're in right now can be improved,
right.
even by taking on some strategies, like we said, like getting a different mouse, like having that come to your house from Amazon, like this different mouse, or like a laptop stand. It can make a really big difference, a very small change. So yeah, just thinking about what works best for you, but really analyzing your current situation and maybe trying some of these out. You really can't. You're not going to lose anything for trying a strategy. I don't know if I'm going to stick to the Pomodoro technique that I've been using lately. I've enjoyed it for the last 2 days.
Right.
Maybe it's something that it does stick into my schedule. But it is fun. It is fun to try these different things. So that's all I wanted to add with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks like there was a typo earlier, so I've fixed that. What have we missed? What are your favorite productivity strategies? What are things that worked for you? Anything that we've covered today that you think, oh, that wasn't quite it? Like what I find works really well is this other thing. We'd love to hear from you. So definitely feel free to reach out. I will also shout out. It looks like we have Bonnie Phillips in the audience. Although we got an angry reaction. Bonnie, I'm sorry, whatever we did to upset you, please let us know if there's something that we covered. Maybe Bonnie was just upset at having to deal with distractions or something. I hope all is well, but we appreciate you stopping in, Bonnie, and leaving a reaction here. But yeah, let us know in the comments below. Obviously, we're happy to take a look at them after the recording for anybody who is not here on the live stream, and maybe there are thoughts or things that we can kind of address more in the future going forward. But I hope this has been helpful. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add, Jordan, before we wrap up for good here?
No, I'm good. I think this was a good one. I enjoyed this one.
Yep, me too. And thanks everybody out there. Please, everybody, stay safe. Good luck with your productivity. And like we mentioned in the email that went out, use this as an opportunity for growth, to be a little bit more creative, to try different things, and to hopefully tap into the potential that we all have, and make the most out of this unexpected opportunity.
Good deal.
Cool. All right. Thanks everybody. Have a great evening, and we will see you folks next time.
See you guys.